Hello, everybody, and welcome to the championship review for our potato show. It's just myself and Brett, as we mentioned on the punishment video. Jared is on his way back from Pennsylvania, so we'll just be us. And Jared, he doesn't need to be on the show because he won't get the gloat. If he won, it may be a different story. But as you can see, Hunter was able to take him down. It was the usual suspects and Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah, I mean, what? Who would have guessed Ricky Pearsall was going to have the game besides Hunter, obviously, that he did?
Yeah,
I mean, even Brock Purdy all through the year, he's been okay, but he wasn't throwing the ball like he was against
yeah.
Detroit, of all teams.
They played a
So,
Lions team it's very hurt on defense and also is missing and wasn't that great of a pass defense to begin with. It was just a good
mhm.
combination for the Niners. But
Yep.
um, yeah, Lamar had a huge game against the Texans, who didn't score a point on offense against the Ravens. Yikes. Um, Burrow had a huge game against the Broncos, which is
Which
hilarious
overtime
because
helped.
Chase, and for those that didn't watch the game, Chase Brown was sliding at the one to try and get it so the Bengals could pretty much run the clock down to like 20 seconds or something like that is what it would have been. Um, what ended up happening, he got hurt on the play, which forced the Bengals, well, because it was an injury timeout under 2 minutes, the Bengals had to use a timeout for that, which then would have given the Broncos like a minute or something like that. So then the Bengals ended up doing a QB sneak to take the lead. The Broncos went down the field and scored to tie the game, sent it to overtime, and it gave Burrow more points in OT. So, like, a wild, turn of events in the last 2 minutes of the game that
But
made
they
it.
also got two possessions
Yeah.
because the first time the Bengals went down, they missed a field goal. So
Oh,
Burrow
yeah,
got
in
all those
overtime.
extra
Yeah, yeah.
yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. It's a good point there.
So
But, yeah, I mean, Jared got a good game from Mahomes. Decent games from Chase and Amon Ra, but you'd hope for more from them. Jacobs
mhm.
and Jacobs didn't have a good game at all. Kyron had an okay game. Zay Flowers had a pretty mediocre game. Well, bad game. Brees Hall had a bad game. Russ had an okay game. Johnny had an okay game. And of course, Jared left the playoff MVP out of nowhere. Olamide Zaccheaus on his bench.
Yeah.
2 weeks in a row where he's been really good. This week was 8 for 85 and a touchdown. Last week was 5 for 70 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't know. I say one of the biggest busts of the year has to be Brees Hall.
Oh, for sure.
Um, he was for sure drafted like I'd assume some first round drafts, but a lot of times in the second round because of how young he is and how good he did at least following the previous years. But
Yeah.
like he was has to be like one of the most inconsistent backs this year
Now,
for what he could have been.
I think next week we should do a review show where we go back and look at our preseason picks for NFL awards because I know Brees Hall and Bijan Robinson were both mentioned on that show as offensive players of the year. Well, neither one of them's winning it because it's Saquon's, but
Right. Yeah,
so
it'd be interesting to see that too.
but one was definitely a better pick than the other one.
Yep.
Anyway,
And it makes you question what's going to happen next year. Do you
yeah,
go on Brees again? I don't know.
it's wild to think about. There's a lot going on with that Jets team. We'll get to that a little bit later. But to kind of put a bow on this championship review, the going into Monday night, it was the Niners and the Lions game. Jared needed what? I think it was like 25 points from Amon Ra. He needed to outscore Pearsall by 25.
Mhm.
And, well, he didn't even get to that 25 point mark, so it didn't matter. Pearsall's boom week didn't really affect anything, but for Hunter, it looks good going into next year, if
Yeah.
nothing else. That he
As long as you just go get in another fight and get shot.
That's true. True. But
Stay out of the bars.
Brock Bowers
Yourself.
didn't have that great of a game. But
He didn't, but he's going to be really good, and we'll talk about
yes,
that later when we come to the TEP settings next year.
the tip. Yep. So, I started to mention the Jets thing. So,
Well,
CNF.
so
Go ahead.
congrats to Hunter.
Yes.
Although you didn't set your lineup every week this year, You
They
didn't
were the
have
ones who
to,
mattered.
and we can no longer say that you not setting your lineup was a mistake because you toasted us all.
You did.
So congrats.
Yes. Pay him his dues.
That's right. Give him his flowers.
His trophy is on the way. It should be there in about 2 weeks. It's already been ordered. So when Hunter gets his trophy, he will be sending us a picture. So we're gonna go ahead and review our playoff predictions we made a few weeks ago. Myself, Jared, and Brett all picked a playoff MVP. So we're gonna start. We're gonna go from like the worst one to the best one. So we're gonna start off with Jared's playoff MVP pick. He said Tua Tagovailoa. I don't know how to say his name. I'll be honest. Sorry. Tua, Captain Concussion. Jared predicted him to have 0 games under 30 points. He did not play in championship week. He was out with a hip injury, I believe it was. Yes. Well,
He didn't even combine for that many points in all 3 weeks.
In the 2 games he did play, he scored less than 20 combined. So, Jared took a big swing, and it's like the kid in T-ball that swings and falls on his butt, because that's this pick looked like from Jared. But congrats on losing the championship game, buddy. Enjoy your 111.
Oh man.
Gotta get some.
I think I have his 111.
Gotta get some trash talking while he's not here, you know.
Sure.
Anyway, the next 2 are pretty close as far as which one's worse, but mine was slightly more of a miss. Mine was Mr. Bijan Robinson, the mustard man himself. I predicted him to have 28 points per game in the playoffs. He only had 23.53 fantasy points a game, so not bad. Still a great playoff performer. Unfortunately, not as good as Jonathan Taylor.
The JT effect is in effect.
I want to trade him just because of how much pain he caused me. And seeing his name next year is going to bring back memories that I don't want to remember.
I'll take him.
That's a discussion for another day. But Bijan averaged, like I said, 23 points a game in the playoffs. Good enough, but I predicted he would have 28, so about 4.5 points off on that prediction. But shifting gears to another running back on my roster, Brett.
Yeah, so my prediction was Bucky was going to get about...
Buckeye Irving.
Bucky Irving was going to get 25 points a game. He only hit that one time. It wasn't the championship with 29.5. But average is about 21, 22. So it's pretty close. Not close enough, but I think one of the games, I can't remember if it was the Chargers or Dallas, he should have easily had it, but they just didn't play him in the second half, or he was just a pawn.
Yeah.
And they lost that game, I'm pretty sure,
actually
right?
Both of them. Both of those games he didn't really play in the second half, but the one you're thinking of was actually the Dallas game, because he had pretty much all of that like 5 minutes into the third quarter.
Yeah, I don't understand.
And then they said we're gonna feed Rashad White.
Yeah.
And they lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, solid.
So yeah,
you and me, respectable predictions. Jared, what the heck was that? That's the honest truth of those predictions. But anyway, moving from the playoff predictions we made to some NFL news that was predicted on the playoff show. I had started to throw out the wild thing of Garrett Wilson to the Texans, and there's been more drama, obviously. Aaron Rodgers just had one of the worst quarterback performances in a single game of all time. 12 of 18 for 112 yards and 2 interceptions against the Bills. They benched Tyrod Taylor, who then came in and led 2 touchdown drives. Obviously, they were down 40-0, so they're not really playing starters, and the Bills probably don't have motivation to be on the field. But it's still Rodgers wasn't
supposedly Rodgers came over when it was 31-0. It was probably should go to Tyrod, huh? And the next drive he was out there.
I mean, that's even worse though. The starting quarterback wanting benched is anyway. They should start Tyrod in week 18. They shouldn't put Rodgers back out there. But
He might be their
anyway,
QB of the future.
anyway, the Garrett Wilson saga. It looks like it's starting. He hasn't really caused that much drama in the NFL, and I don't think he's that type of receiver. But there's rumors starting that he probably will request a trade if the Jets are planning to bring back Aaron Rodgers. So much like Myles Garrett in Cleveland, where he's probably going to request a trade if we're bringing back Deshaun Watson. Um, Garrett Wilson might be forcing his way out of New York, which there's like a pretty good sign that'd be good for fantasy. But
What if Fields goes?
to the Jets,
Yeah.
I would not like that at all. I would
I
hate for Fields
mean,
to be a Jet. I would like it for Garrett Wilson because I think Fields
yeah.
would hyper target Garrett Wilson. The same thing, but there's so many different teams I want Fields to go on. I just hope he ends up on one of them. Like the Jets would not be my first choice because I just don't like that franchise. But like the Saints would be solid, the Cardinals would be solid. I would love it as a Browns fan for him to be a Brown. I doubt that one will happen, to be
Yeah.
honest, because we have
I'm just
such a high
thinking of
draft
a
pick.
QB that could
Mm.
potentially get to the Jets
Jameis Winston.
as their future.
Well, I
Nah.
think they'll probably draft a quarterback in the first round
What pick do they have?
or second round. I will fact check that right now. The Jets currently hold pick 7, so they're in a spot where they could get a decent shot at a quarterback. And I mean, we'll
Yeah,
see.
I
And
guess.
Winston has been a backup that's played games the last couple seasons, so like, I would kind of like Winston in New York. I feel like that would not work necessarily, but it would be good. It's always good for fantasy when Winston's the quarterback. We've seen that now multiple years in a row.
Yeah, we have, unfortunately.
Your most hated quarterback now, I'm sure. So the other thing we want to talk about, obviously big NFL news. Saquon Barkley is chasing Eric Dickerson's all-time single-season rushing yards record. But Nick Sirianni was out, I believe it was yesterday, saying that Saquon is likely to rest in Week 18 before the playoffs, which is the smart thing to do from the franchise perspective. Prepare for the playoffs, go win games. But the Eagles are robbing us of the funniest thing ever, which would be Saquon breaking the all-time single-season rushing yards record against the Giants the year after they let him walk in free agency, and they were on Hard Knocks. This is public. All the discussions about them letting Saquon walk, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll just draft running back in the 4th round. We'll sign Devin Singletary. We'll replace Saquon's value to the team. Good enough. We'll let Daniel Jones cook." He cooked like Russ in Denver, is what he did.
hmm
But Brett, I'll let you talk a little bit about that if you have any.
Yeah, I think
Thoughts.
with the Saquon thing, I mean, we've heard that like his character is so like good and team oriented. That at one point, I know during the year he sat out to let the young guys run. So it's not like it's his first time making this decision. So I kind of saw it coming that he would sit out just to stay healthy. He'd rather be healthy for the playoffs and win in the playoffs. But it sucks that a record like this, which many people would have thought that wouldn't be even touchable ever, it sucks that he's this close. Somebody's this close, and I don't know. My thing is, if you sign up for football, you sign up for the full year. I know that everyone has a money tag, and there's injury risk involved, but it's what you signed up for. So go play. I don't know. I'd rather him try for it.
Yeah.
I think he could easily do it, especially against the Giants. And it would be hilarious to do that against the Giants.
Yeah.
And if I were him, I'd even do that in spite of the Giants. But obviously, you can't knock a guy for deciding to save it for the playoffs and go win a chip. So
Yeah. I think it's the right move from the Eagles' perspective, and like you said, I don't think Saquon's not that type of player, but it is robbing us NFL fans. It's a record that's now stood. This is the 40th season where this record has stood. So it would have been cool kind of to have it broken on a 10. But
Yeah.
he probably won't break it. I mean, things can change. What if Saquon says, hey, I want to just let me in, let me get 100 yards, and then I'm done type of thing. Because right now, Saquon is sitting at, where is he? He's sitting at 2005, so he would need exactly 101 yards to break
Problem
it.
is Saquon only starts playing in the second half.
So bench him in the first half. Bring him in the third quarter
But
when
is
you're
that
already up
gonna?
21-0.
But is he only good in the second half, or is he only good after he's been
Oh,
running for two
it's
quarters?
a
I
good
don't know.
question. It's a good question.
So do
But
you have to leave him in all game to do that? Ugh.
they're playing the Giants, so the motivation factor, they probably only need to give him 2 carries for him to get those 101 yards.
Honestly, the Giants are playing stop run only. Let the receivers go over your head. We're not letting this record be broken in New York.
We're going to see the
So
first ever 11-man box. They're just not going to line anybody up on A.J. Brown and Devontae
exactly,
Smith.
it'll be cover zero all day.
Oh, that would be fun. But shifting back into a fantasy perspective, if anyone's been paying attention to the league chat, it has been rolled over to 2025. Trades are still open. The rookie draft order has been set, so we can officially move to 25. I'm going to go ahead and set a random draft time for June. This is not our final draft time, but this is just so everybody can get in here and see the draft board and stuff. This is obviously 2023 rookies, or 2024 rookies, excuse me, on here, because they haven't gotten the new ones yet. But, yeah, so this is the draft board. This is what it looks like. Exciting stuff. Getting that
This
time here.
is.
So, as you can see, the draft order up at the top, we've got Kumpt has the first pick. Him and Brett, as well as Disco, were tied in record, but max points for would put that Kumpt, Brett, and Disco. So that's why they're ordered that way. Then we have Clint, Adam, and Ross. Ross obviously just barely missed the playoffs. Unfortunate. Devin, who we predicted to get to the semifinals, ended up with the 107, losing in the first round, and then losing to Josh.
I like that.
That is good for you. You picked the right first round pick to snipe in that Minnesota trade. Josh will have the 108 in the draft order, so 208 as well as 308 and 408. He also lost in the semifinal or the quarterfinals, but he beat Devin in the 5th place game. George, or JGF, this is probably a bad thing for his team, but he didn't really have any picks anyway. So he ends up with the 109 because he won his quarterfinal matchup and lost the 3rd place game to me. I will have the 110. I won my quarterfinal against Josh and lost to Jared in the semifinals thanks to a brilliant move of sitting Jonathan Taylor. Jared will have the 111 in the championship game for a 2nd year in a row, so congrats to Jared for doing that. Couldn't go for the back-to-back, though. He did lose to Hunter, which gives him the 111. And Hunter, obviously, the champion of our league, the 3rd different champion in 3 years, which is great. That's what I've been saying all season. I wanted to keep it, a new winner every year, so next year's my year.
For sure.
Me or you, Brett. One of us got to take it home so we can
I don't know.
balance.
I got a lot of things that gotta go right here. So.
Yeah, indeed. But so draft order is finalized. A couple things that will be changing for 2025. So we voted before this past season on a tight end premium for this upcoming year, so 2025. So we got 7 votes on yes. 4 of them were for 0.5 premium, and 3 of them were for 0.75 premium. So I put another poll in the chat on Sleeper for what tight end premium, actually. I put 3 options this time, 0.5, 0.75, or 1. And as I explained here, a tight end premium is on top of the normal reception bonus. So it'll be 1 point for reception for any player. But for tight ends, this tight end premium would be like, if it's 0.5, the tight ends would get 1.5 for a catch. If you vote for 1, the tight ends would get 2 per catch. So that's kind of just how that goes. And also, we're going to change a little bit how draft order works since we don't really have a prize pool or anything like that for this league. All playoff teams' draft order will now be based on regular season standings, or, well, as it is, the tiebreaker will be max points for. Yeah, The tiebreaker will be max points for those teams. So if you have the same record in the regular season, it will be max points for, not normal points for. That is a slight difference. Except for the championship game will always be the 11 and 12 pick in the order. So, Brett, do you have anything to add to any of those? You know, campaign for a tight end premium you like, or anything like that?
Not really. The one thing I want to kind of clarify is the draft order
Mm-hmm.
playoff teams. So it's only going to be okay. The other except 11, 12 will always be the championship game for
So I'll use this year as an example. So like,
yeah.
coming into the playoffs, Devin was the 3 seed. Right now, our format being because he lost the first 2 games in the 2 games in the playoffs, he moves down to the 107.
Yep.
From now on, he will be the one that would be the 110 no matter what. Because he was the 3rd seed in the playoffs. And since there's not really like a reward for any other game other than the championship in our league being the trophy for the champion, like Devin didn't really set a lineup. This was the default lineup he had from before, except he did swap Tank Dell in and out, but so yeah, it'll just be based on the regular season now. And so like trying to think of anyone else. Well, George would have still been the 107 with the new format, whereas now he's the 109. So him and Devin pretty much just swap places in this format.
Gotcha.
But that's really the only change. Not a huge change, but it is a slight change. I think it's just gonna keep the worst teams as the lower pick, and it won't like George is technically getting punished for having a win in the playoffs, and Devin's getting rewarded for losing in the first round. But we're gonna try and keep that from happening in the future.
Gotcha.
I think that's everything I've got. There will be a little bit of off-season schedule for us. I think we will do a review show of like some of our takes from before the season, so we'll have to review those and come back on here. Jared and I do have some bets to pay out from Pick'ems, as well as that CJ Stroud bet I talked about in the previous video. We will be doing like a mock draft. We'll do 2 of them for the fantasy. The first one we'll do sometime post Super Bowl, whether that is like after the Super Bowl or after the Combine, and the other one we'll do after the NFL draft, more in normal Dynasty rookie draft season, but just kind of like a little roadmap for the off-season show. We're going to try and keep it active. As far as I know, we have everybody returning for 2025. I'm not 100% sure about Kumpt, but I know I feel pretty confident we have 11 of 12 back next year, which is a huge sigh of relief for me because last year we had to replace 4 teams, and that was not fun. But looking forward to another Dynasty offseason. Brett, do you have any final thoughts before we get on out of here?
No, just kind of keeping an eye on the college championship bowl games, things like that. Getting some mock draft videos ingrained in my head as far as different fantasy talkers online. Moving into next year.
Moving into next year, indeed. Closing the book on the 2024 fantasy season right here. And be on the lookout for that review show in the next few weeks. Peace.
Yeah.